So, hello, my name is Jamie White with Global Diversity News, and today I will be talking to Keith King, President at the National Veteran Business Development Council. We're going to be walking through some of the things that the NVBDC does for veterans on a business level. I'm going to also talk about any upcoming events that they may have. So, to start out, Keith, can you go ahead and just tell me a little bit about the National Veteran Business Development Council? How did you guys start, and what are your current goals?
Well, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate having an opportunity to talk about the NVBDC. It's been well, I guess a labor of love, so to speak, but
Yep.
we are the certification body for veteran-owned businesses and what we call service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. We do both. Much like the National Minority Supplier Development Council certifies minority businesses, and WeBank, which is the national women's organization that certifies women-owned businesses, we certify veteran businesses. And the motivation behind that was really the demand by the corporations that a reliable and, frankly, a certification program that meets their standards, much like the standards of the women and the minorities, was not only created and implemented, but something that they would help and support, which thankfully they are supporting the NVBDC. So our goal is to reach out to as many veteran-owned businesses as we can find who want to do business with corporations, first and foremost, but the good news also is we now have at least one state, which is the state of Michigan, that has accepted our certification.
Oh, nice.
We'll tell you that we are talking to multiple states to begin accepting our certification. We do have one federal agency that's already on board, and we expect more of them as well. So what we're really pushing is that if they are a veteran-owned business, and they will need to become certified, and hopefully they'll come to us and go through the certification process with us.
Okay. How many years have you guys been around?
Well, officially we launched in April of 2014, so a little over 2 years ago, but there was a lot of background work before that.
Of course.
Myself and my fellow officers and some of my board members, we spent the most of the year 2013 what we call learning our craft. Thankfully, I've mentioned the women and the minority. Their regional offices became our mentors. They were willing to share what they did and why they did what they did with us, which led to creating our program. And so, we say officially we launched in 2014, but if you ask me, I actually started in late 2012. So I've been doing this a little while, just took it time to get together.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. In your words, excuse me, describe the state of veteran business ownership.
Well, I think it's one somewhat of confusion in the sense
Confusion.
that
Okay.
if you look at veteran-owned businesses by the federal law, the law was created in 1999, and it set up the classifications of service disabled and veteran-owned businesses. Um, but there was not a requirement for certification. In fact, it was called self-certification. And you could go into the database of the federal government, register your company, and simply claim to be a veteran business, and they accepted that claim. When we went to the corporations, though, the corporation said, one, claiming it is one thing, proving it is a completely other issue. And
That's true.
unfortunately, there has been so much fraud on the federal level. This, what we call self-certification, has proven that it's not reliable. And so when we sat down with the corporations, they were very clear and very blunt that we're going to need to create a certification program that not only meets all the other standards of certification, but to make sure that we knew how to implement that certification program so that going forward, excuse me, going forward, all of our veteran businesses, will be proud to earn this certification and to be able to use it, in pursuit of additional business.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about the certification process in a little bit, but before we get into that, tell me a little bit about you. Who is Keith King, and what makes you want to advocate for veteran business opportunities? I see you smiling over there.
Well, I guess I joke about the fact that I'm one of the old vets, but I am a Vietnam veteran.
Yep.
I am what's called an in-country combat veteran. So I did my time, came home, got married, and my son ended up in the Persian Gulf War. And my nephew did 2 tours in Iraq. And frankly, my grandson's in the Army today. So when I started looking at all of this, this was about opportunity for them. I've had a good life. I've had a successful business. I've been running my company, this company, 18 years. So I wasn't looking at creating new opportunities specifically for me or my company. I was really saying, you know what? In my language, it wasn't necessarily a good thing to be a Vietnam vet. In fact, it was detrimental to my career. But I wanted to make sure that if we had the goodwill, if we had the support of our corporate sponsors and our corporations and the other people who were saying, put this together, we'll help you. That motivated me to go and put it together, and I acknowledge them and credit them for stepping up and helping this to become a reality.
Okay. You said being a Vietnam vet was a detriment in business, correct? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Why? Can you expand on that? Why that is? Was it just at that time when just because?
Unfortunately, the way that Vietnam veterans were portrayed on the media, the Vietnam War was basically brought into your home every evening, and I blame the media because again, what the media did is they came on and said the war is bad, and they painted the warrior with the same brush. So the war's bad, the warrior's bad. And we've spent a lot of years explaining to them that, one, they were wrong, and secondly, as far as I'm concerned, they owe, us an apology. But the fact of the matter is we were more concerned about making sure that they didn't do this again. I don't care if you like the war or not, but don't clump in the warrior, because I did my job. I did my job with honor and integrity, and I did it well. So for you being the media to come out and say that the warrior was bad, or all this portrayal of drug crazed Vietnam vets, it got to a point where I was refused jobs because of being a Vietnam vet. I literally removed it from my resume. I didn't talk about it. I worked at some companies for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. They didn't even know I was a veteran, let alone a Vietnam vet.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that was a time period where, because of the war and because of the way we were portrayed, it really was, in fact, detrimental to me. And, it's not unusual. I want to be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
If I talk to 1,000 Vietnam vets, I'll tell you 999 of them will tell you that it's virtually the same story, all to varying degrees. But most of us just came home, we took off our uniform, and either one forgot about the war or tried to forget about it, and just simply came back in and went to work and set it aside. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen ever again. And thankfully, the way America is today and the way the media is today, they do understand and appreciate our veterans and the sacrifices they make. And I'm thankful for that.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair. Um, what are going with that? Just taking some of the things that you've learned as a veteran and other veterans. When we're talking about business, what are some of the key skill sets and strengths that veterans bring to business ownership that no one else can?
Well, first off, if you look at the equipment that today's veterans are working with, it is some of the most sophisticated and advanced technology in the world.
Right.
So we have people who have real life hands-on experiences. An example that I absolutely love to use simply because it's so astounding to me. I was talking with a veteran and I asked him what he did. And he was telling me that he worked on a nuclear submarine and, in essence, kept a nuclear plant working in functioning. And then he complained about saying that, well, he couldn't find a job that fit his training.
Wow.
And I said, are you kidding me? I could name 5, energy companies who would hire you in a heartbeat. I don't know who you were talking to, guy, but, that's another issue. But, you look at that. I mean, first off, how many people would ever have that kind of experience and that kind of knowledge, that kind of exposure?
Very few.
And so you look at all the things that these guys have, number one. Number two, if you look at it in the purest sense of discipline and understand what it takes to do a job and a commitment to do a job, we talk about, the greatest training facility in the world is the United States military. You learn, discipline. You get up and you go to work, you do your job. Honor, integrity. These words mean things to veterans. And if you're in the military, you understand that you are to perform with that kind of integrity and that kind of honor. So that's something that when you come out, you don't just put on the shelf, you bring that with you. So we know that, matter of fact, some of the guys say, hey, look at them as well. They're drug free, because of all of the requirements that you need to maintain your military career. You have a pretty good employee coming out the door, and many of them have skills that virtually no one else will have.
Yep.
Yep.
With that being said, and with your organization pushing for more veterans, again with that, with not only business but also things like employment, and you guys still being relatively new compared to your counterparts like NMSDC and WeBank, do you think that that's helped or hurt your current growth?
Well, I keep reminding myself how hard it is to do a startup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well,
Oh yeah.
there's a reason. What is it? 90% of companies fail within the first 3 years.
Yeah, 2 3 years. Yep.
And the good and bad is I've owned 3 companies. I started my first company in 1984. So having been through there and then running my current company, like I said, for 18 years, I kind of forgot how hard it was to do a startup. But now that we're up and we're running and we're doing it, we're making it happen. Of course, it's detrimental in the sense that, we're still building our name, our reputation. We're still building the process, the recognition from our own veteran businesses to say, hey, these are the guys, and these are the ones we need to get to. And so when we look at all of that, it's an exciting time, but you still have the reality that we're still young and we're still growing.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a detriment, but as you grow, you think that that's gonna obviously work itself out as you get more. For example, the state of Michigan being on your side and growing through that. I can definitely understand that. Especially like you said, being a startup is hard. Truer words were never spoken.
There you go.
Let's go ahead and let's get back to the certification process. So if you can, just go ahead and describe the certification process to becoming a veteran-owned business through the National Veteran Business Development Council.
Well, one of the things that you need to know right up front is, again, we follow both the minority and women processes in the sense of the information that you're going to need to provide. And it can be intrusive. We're talking about tax returns, we're talking about financial documents, we're talking about your corporate documents, talking about your bylaws, all of those documents that say, yes, in fact, you not only own a minimum of 51%, but more important, that you're actually in control, operational control, management control, financial control. As I tell all my fellow veterans, it's not enough that you're a vet. You have to show up and actually run this company.
Right.
Surprise, right?
Yeah.
So,
Surprise.
yeah, so guys are and the gals, are saying, well, wait a minute, I'm providing you with all of this information. Yes, you are, and yes, you need to. And if you don't want to provide it, then don't bother getting certified. But what we do is we assure them and reassure. Not only is our level of security, all of the information, all the documentation, we have gone to great lengths to make sure that all of this information is protected and is secured and stored offline. All of the different things that we have done to build in the security. Also, part of that whole process is the actual establishing of not only their veteran recognition, but their veteran records, their disability records. So what we're going to do is we'll sit down with the veteran and go through, actually it's online now, so the whole process is automated. I just went through it again. I recertified my own company. So, it's detailed, but it's relatively easy. The process works really well, and you just need to be prepared, which when you go on our website, we have a checklist. We recommend that you download and print that checklist, get all your material prepared,
right,
and then come back and be prepared to upload all the information we need. That seems to work the best, and frankly, it can be done relatively quickly if you have the documents prepared.
Okay. How long do you think it will take if you have everything prepared?
Well, one of the things that we have learned is that we talk about our clock. And the clock, we basically say we should be able to get you certified within 60 days after we have a completed application. And the key to that is the completed application, because we've got guys who have taken 90 days to complete their application. And we're not on my clock, we're on their clock. So until we get it completed and we get all the documents that we need, our clock doesn't tick. But after that, we feel that we can get most people done within 60 days.
After the 60 days, what are some of the benefits of possessing that certification from the NVBDC?
Two things that we talk about constantly is access and opportunity. Access in this sense. There are major American corporations who are looking for and want to work with veteran-owned businesses for a lot of different reasons. So the access to companies like an AT&T, a 3M, Ford, General Motors, Kellogg's, all these other major corporations that are already with us and are already supporting us, it's amazing array. JP Morgan Chase, MetLife, all of these other companies that are involved with us. We will provide access to them. And secondly, the opportunity, because what they're looking for is a business that can provide them with either the product or services that they need. And if they can find a veteran-owned business that can do that, they're going to give them that opportunity to bid, that opportunity to submit a proposal for their services. And frankly, without the certification, you're not going to have the access, normally speaking. And even if you did, chances are they're not going to give you this opportunity without the certification. We have gone from the what we call the day of self-certification is slowly dying. Frankly, we believe it should die. So we're now saying, look, if you want to do business in corporate America, you need to be certified. And that, I think, is a point that has to be hammered home, because with that certification, and I have thankfully, we have a lot of very great success stories. One in the sense it fits perfectly. One of our guys said, look, he's been pursuing this guy for 2 years, could never get an appointment, could never get any time with them. Calls him up and says, hey, we are now certified as a veteran-owned business. He had an appointment with them 2 weeks later. So when we talk about access and opportunity, we think that that's the two main values. There's a lot of other value involved in this as well, but those are the two key points.
Okay. Just moving on, just with that, how does the NVBDC connect with corporations and veterans? So kind of pulling those two together, and then connecting and promoting yourselves.
Well, it's a combination of two things, really. One, as the NVBDC grows, we are hosting or co-hosting events. We have an event coming up here in Detroit on July 21st with the Federal Reserve, and frankly, a whole lot of what we call the financial institutions, banks. We've got the who of banks, some insurance companies, different organizations that will be here. We've got 20 some organizations, including the state of Michigan, city of Detroit, as well as the Comerica and Bank of America and all the other banks that we were talking about. So one, they'll have the events that we co-host coming up in November, actually November 9th and 10th. We are working with a group, it's called a VBOC in VetBiz Central out of Flint, Michigan. We're hosting our 11th annual meet and greet with veteran businesses. Corporations that were there last year included Ford, General Motors, Delphi, DTE, Herman Miller, Stryker, on and on and on. Well, in that room were the people who were buyers or supplier diversity managers, who are really, the key and the gatekeepers to purchasing for us, who were there to meet with veteran businesses. Well, where else are you going to have an opportunity at one place at one time to talk to these kind of major corporations who actually want to do business with you? So those kind of events are critical. The other, and the one that I spend a lot of time on, is the ones that are actually implemented by or hosted by the companies themselves, the corporations. There's an event that Ford's coming up that they're looking for veteran-owned businesses, and they're hosting this event themselves. This event on the Federal Reserve, that whole initiative started when the Federal Reserve called and said, hey, we want to talk to your certified veterans. Can we put an event together? So we have corporations and our own events, and those are growing. Every year we're getting more and more of those events every year.
Okay. What are some of the biggest challenges for veteran businesses? Kind of going through just the process of trying to do business with large corporations in general, and how does the NVBDC help address these issues? So we talked about a little bit before.
One of the things that happens, and I again, this is one of the things I try to tell my fellow veterans. Yes, it's easy when I'm sitting here and saying Ford and General Motors and Kellogg's and all these AT&T and all these large corporations. But the fact is under most circumstances, you're not going to work for them directly. What you're going to do is you're going to work with one of their tier 1, tier 2, or possibly tier 3 suppliers. Delphi is one of our sponsors as well, and Delphi is one of the largest tier 1 suppliers of the automotive. Magna is one of our sponsors. Detroit Manufacturing Systems is another one of our sponsors. These are all major, big-time tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers to automotive. But we also have that in other industries as well. And the point is that as the corporations are looking for certification, we also are now seeing their tier 1, 2, 3 suppliers coming to us as well, saying, look, we want to hire the veteran businesses. We want them certified by you as well. So what we're doing is we're kind of matching them up with the idea that the veteran needs to learn the system, learn what they require, and grow. What we talk about is it's not enough for the veteran businesses to come in and grow. It come in and grow and then turn around and make sure you help the next veteran in line and you help them grow as well. And that way we build each other. And that's the other thing that we talk about, is helping each other. I know right now I have a crew of about 4 different organizations of veteran-owned businesses that our guys have put together. There was a bid up, and the guy said, hey, I can handle a part of it. Can we find any other veteran businesses that can handle the other pieces? And they're putting their own groups together now. So that's another way for us to become not only successful, but to grow as our success, comes to us.
Yeah, that's good. Being provided more opportunities, and then once you hopefully have a positive impact on that, pass it on to the next one, to the next veteran. Yeah, I definitely support that. Just a quick opinion piece. In your opinion, what are the top cities and industries, for veteran businesses today?
Industry?
Yep, industries.
Well, obviously, we have to look at the automotive. God bless them, because really, if you look at
such a Michigan guy.
Well, it's not the fact that we're just sitting here in Detroit, but really the history. I mean, you go back and 40 years or so ago with the minority, the first organizations, the first industry to actually create a supplier diversity program was the automotive. And they were also the leaders, if you will, the tip of the spear for women. And the other organizations, in industries have followed them, but there's no doubt. And I've had the pleasure of speaking with many of the people who are considered to be the founders of either the minority or the women certification programs, and they all say the same thing. Without the automotive, it never would have happened. It would not be where they are, and they certainly would not have the kind of success that they have if it hadn't been for the automotive industry.
That's interesting. So, quick question: do you think if other, maybe diverse, what have you, groups of people are looking to start a certification organization, they should start with the automotive sectors?
Well, what I would say, is regardless of what industry you start with, the first thing you need to do is learn what it is that certification requires and why you would even thinking of doing it. There's a lot of, right at this point, a lot of different groups running around talking about certifying. Right. And the question becomes is what is it that this organization does, or who do they represent, that's not covered by one of the 3 or 4 major groups. Right now with the women, the minority, there's the National Lesbian and Gay, Bisexual, Transsexual group. They're out running now, up and running, and then of course us with the veterans. Now we already know that there's other subgroups that are out talking about and or doing certification, and we do see some hesitation to say, well, wait a minute, that group could, fall under any one of the other major umbrella. So I would just say be, very diligent about who you represent, why you represent them, why they need a separate certification. I can tell you I would never have started this if there had been an existing veteran certification that any of the corporations, would accept it. That just wasn't the case. So it became very clear that if the veteran businesses wanted the certification, somebody had to create it. And, I was blessed by having good people around me to help put this together. And frankly, the corporations who basically said, well, build it and we'll help you.
Um,
Um,
where do you
where do
see,
you?
just kind of wrapping up a little bit, where do you see the NVBDC in the next 10 years?
Well, hopefully I'll have somebody else running it and I'll be completely and totally retired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't debate
I
that.
see us becoming who we really are today, only bigger, better, stronger, faster.
Yep.
Uh, what we know is around 800,000 people are coming out of the military in the next 3 to 5 years. The average is about 10% of our veterans will create their own business. If my math is right, 10% of 100,000 is 80,000.
Yep.
That's 80,000 new businesses potentially coming online. And if you look at that number alone and you say, well, wait a minute, a percentage of that will probably need to be certified to be able to grow and expand their businesses and do the kind of work that we're talking about. So, one, we know that there's a base. Secondly, we know in the future, America's been really good at making veterans. It's a different issue about treating us, but that's another topic. But the point is that with the goodwill of the corporations, the goodwill of the states, the goodwill of the various agencies, both state and local government, cities, counties that we are dealing with who want to help our fellow veterans. Because what we talk about is we know that veterans, veteran businesses have a higher propensity to hire veterans than non-veteran owned businesses.
Yeah.
And we talked about if you want to help eliminate veteran unemployment, help veteran businesses grow. That much we know, that much we can show, and we can statistically prove it. That's not a problem. So, as to answer your question in the bigger picture, where will we be in 10 years from now? We will be doing what we're doing. We will be hopefully at the table as an equal partner with the women and with the minorities. Again, statistically, if you look at the military today, the highest percentage of females ever in the history of the military is today. We also have one of the highest, if not the highest, percentage of minorities ever in the military today. So when we look at this, it makes perfect sense to us to be working with the women, to be working with the minorities. We tell people that, hey, an example is a female, African American female veteran. That woman should have all three certifications. And we joke, if she's got a decent business and knows how to run it, she should have a whole lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
So, get all three. And that's where we see ourselves as being, again, the third leg of the stool, if you will. We have women, we have the minorities, and we have the veterans. So we hope that we're all part of that overall opportunity that the corporations have made available to us.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off of what you were saying when veterans hiring other veterans, I was taking a look at an article actually today, and they surveyed a couple of hundred veteran-owned businesses throughout the country, and it was reported back that about 75 to 80% of them had military vets employed. So that's definitely true.
Well, good. Send that to me. I'll put it in my presentation.
I definitely will. It also had one other note. It talked about how sometimes veterans have to put their businesses on hold when they're recalled back to service.
Well, again, talk about the difference in time, if you will. Back in my day, back again in the 60s and early 70s, most of the National Guard and most of the reserve units were never activated. In fact, if they were activated to, actually go to war, that was like big news because it was highly unusual. Today, there's a way of accepting and supplementing our what we call the active army, and frankly, that just didn't happen in my time period. But now that it is happening, and to the extent that it's happened, it's absolutely an issue because guys have their businesses or they got their jobs, and all of a sudden they're activated. and they're gone for a year and a half. Um, it definitely affects everything in your life, and you're one day you're living your life, and the next day you're back in uniform and all someplace in the world, defending this country.
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you? Like right in the middle of your business?
No,
Okay.
I am one of the guys who joined the army. I volunteered. In my language, it was called an RA, which means regular army. Uh, back when they had a draft, which most people today don't realize, but the designation, if you were drafted, was U.S., and if you enlisted, you were an RA. And that became only important to you when there was some kind of an assignment or some kind of, uh, let's just say, volunteer situation in which you didn't necessarily want to volunteer, and your sergeant or drill sergeant wants to know if you're an RA or a US. So, uh, you know, when you're an RA, you had nothing to complain about because you enlisted. So we found ourselves working with a lot of guys who made a mistake, I guess, or depends on your point of view, but who enlisted versus being drafted. But those days change and the time changed. Today, everybody's a volunteer, and it's all volunteer military. So you gotta respect the service to our country because they have left their jobs, they've left their life, and they have volunteered to serve. And so, we have a lot of gratitude for what we call the young vets, realizing what they have done and what they've sacrificed for this country.
Okay. Yeah, just in closing, it was pretty interesting. And I'll definitely send you over that article. But yeah, just in closing, what are some of a few upcoming events for the NVBDC, which includes like the July 31st Federal Reserve one, and others, as well as anything additional you want to add?
Yeah, let me read. That is the 21st, not the 31st.
I said 21st. Yeah, I said 21st.
Yeah, July 21st. That's here in Detroit at the Federal Reserve Building. Again, go online to our website, the nvbdc.org, and you will find the information on that. The other one is what we call our veteran meet and greet. That is November 9th and 10th. That'll be up in Flint. And it's a recognition of, all the problems that have been going on in Flint. It's a way for us to support it. That event, as an example, last year we had about 230 veteran-owned businesses there, so it was great networking with our fellow vets, all the corporations I had mentioned earlier. So again, you can find that information on our website. And then the other events, are things that will be scheduled for 2016. Or 17 that we're still working on. But those are the two events right now for the NVBDC that we hope people will definitely take a look at. And if you got a chance, join us. I would tell you if at all possible, if you're in business and you're a veteran, you should get to this event with the Federal Reserve. We have a list of what we call the commodity list of what they're looking to buy. It's just incredible. It's virtually anything. And you're just, again, I go back to the words we talked about, access and opportunity. You're going to have an opportunity that very few businesses will ever have in one place at one time in one day. So I can definitely tell you, I not only personally will be there, the majority of my board and my officers will be there, and about another 150 veteran businesses and all these corporations. So I think it's a place and time that we're very excited about, and we hope they'll attend.
Okay. Yeah, just really quick about how many corporations are going to be there?
Well, we have 22 tables and we're oversold. So
That sounds
I,
good.
I was working yesterday to see who I could squeeze two to a table. Uh,
The
but
more
again,
opportunity, the
with the
better.
corporations, just think Freddie Mac on the federal level, of course, the Federal Reserve itself will be there. Like I said, Comerica Bank, Bank of America, and J.P. Morgan Chase, AAA, Blue Cross, State of Michigan, City of Detroit. I've got 20, like I said, I got 22 tables and we're full.
Okay, good. Okay, anything else you want to add before we take off?
Well, again, only, one, go to our website. On that website, you'll find everything you need to know about getting certified. Please reach out to us if you got questions. And, if you're a veteran, again, the minimum requirement is you must own 51%. And you gotta be showing up and running the company. But if you fit that criteria, the rest is the stuff that we'll help you on, and we'll, work with you to make sure that if you do qualify, that you get your certification. And that is, frankly, something that we are saying that we need our veterans to respond as well. We already have a lot of corporations. Now we need the veterans to step up and understand the opportunity that this provides them, and come and join us.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot,
Well,
Keith,
thanks.
for all the time that you gave to this interview. It was a process, but we finally were able to finish it off. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Better,
definitely
better lady.
check out the National Veteran Business Development Council at NVBDC.org. Uh, and also check out Global Diversity News. Please like, subscribe to our channel. Check us out on Twitter at GDN Network and also our website, globaldiversitynews.com. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yep, you too.